So, in the past week, if not in the past 24 or 48 hours, a lot's been going down, believe it or not. And it all relates to Ken Penders and Ian Flynn. Now, recently Ken Penders has come out and he has said that he is now willing to work with a lot of people, those at IDW on the Sonic comic, those that work in non-Sonic franchises or comics or whatever media. He's recently come out and said that he's now willing to work with them to allow his characters to be utilized outside of his projected Lala Sue Chronicles. You know, he's willing to let characters like Lala Sue, Julie Sue, Jeffrey St. John, Hershey, if you will, all be utilized outside of the parameters of the Lala Sue deal. He's willing to work with people now, like I said, including even IDW Sonic. And that all he wants to do to make that happen is talk with them so that they can reach an agreement, so that, from what I understand, and Ken correct me if I'm wrong, from what I understand, he'll step aside to let his characters be used, to allow his characters to be used, what I'm trying to say, in any shape or form possible, and necessary as far as the media, like the comic of Sonic and IDW or elsewhere, is concerned. Now he also added in a little snippet of a document I think he has, and he even told people to Google the information if they want to as well, to get more of a behind-the-scenes correction from his point of view of what went down legally as far as the usage of his characters and other characters are concerned. Because basically what really started this all off, and I did a live stream on this during the Sonic the Hedgehog discussion, and I took this topic that I talked about in the live stream, I clipped it off of my YouTube deal, and I put it basically as its own YouTube video. I basically cut it out, if you will, and made it its own YouTube clip. And basically, it has to center around the fact that Ian Flynn gets called out by Ken Penders, because Ian Flynn, in a recent Bumblecast podcast, came out and basically, from what Ken could tell, declared the fact, or at least from his point of view, declared the fact that the reason we can't see characters like Sally and the Freedom Fighters, the reason, because of, we can't see characters maybe like Julie Sue, is because of the behind-the-scenes legal issues, and Ken, being the way he is, and Sega legally not allowing the characters to be used, or stuff like that. And Ken heard this, and I'll provide a clip at the end of this to that clip from the live stream so you can check it out yourself. Ken heard this, and he basically called Ian Flynn out. He called him out for basically his BS on trying to, as he put it, give his own spin on the legal situation between, himself and Archie and Sega and all that as far as his characters were concerned. So, anyway, to get back on topic, well, that does relate to the topic, but to get back on topic, basically Ken has finally agreed, hey, I'll let my characters be used in the IDW Sonic, or any Sonic media, or any non-Sonic media, as long as they can work something out as far as the deal is concerned. And again, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, he's even willing to step aside to allow that to happen, have his characters used in any shape, form possible, if necessary or needed, as far as the comic or the media is concerned, that they would be involved in. Now, again, I bring this up due to the fact that one fan, Dale Hinn on Twitter, asked him this question when he brought this all up. I guess he was also doing a little bit of a Q&A, asking questions about everything from fans. And one fan asked him, Dale Hinn that is, but will Sally Acorn ever come to IDW Sonic? And this has to do with the fact that Ian Flynn has gone on record several times saying that he wants the Freedom Fighters in the comic. He's pushing for them to be in the comic. He's working hard to get them into the comic. But yet, to counteract that, he's also come out and said that, he wants to focus the comic in a new direction. He doesn't want to rely on the past. He wants to keep Archie characters or characters related to the Archie Sonic book, out of the book of IDW, or something to that measure, if you will. And the reason this fan asked this is because of the fact that it relates to Ken saying, "Hey, I'm willing to let this, proceed. I'm willing to let my characters to be used." And when they asked about Sally's possibility being in the comic, Ken's answer was, "Not as long as Ian's writing the book." And when he said that, that set off a lot of fans. Some fans of being Flynn, some fans of Ken Penders, some fans of both. It set them off. Because a lot of people have always felt that Ken has had this disdain for Ian Flynn, which honestly I don't think he's ever had a disdain for him. He just has a bit of a disappointment, especially with Ian Flynn coming out and saying that he knows about the real situation legal-wise behind the scenes as to why the freedom fighters can't be used, why Penders' characters can't be used and stuff like that. And Penders is like, you're full of it, you don't know what you're talking about. And in response, some people have come out, like I said, in defense of both men and against both men. One person, I don't know if I have this in order and everything, because the person actually screenshotted these and put them in different orders. One person said that is untrue. I don't know if it has to relate to the Sally situation, Sally and Freedom Fighter situation, but one person said that is untrue, and Ken's response was, "That's just your conjunction on your. That's just conjunction on your part. Ian could make a case." Okay, this is what he said. This is what Ken Penders said to the person. I think this is a bit of a follow-up when he said that is untrue, because the person obviously is responding to Ken saying that as long as Ian's writing the book, you won't see Sally or the Freedom Fighters in there. This is what one person response is, they basically are telling Ken, "No, that's wrong, you're lying." Ken's response to that is, "That's just your conjunction, okay, let me reread this." This is what Ken says, and I quote, in response to the person that tells Ken Penders that Sally, not being allowed in the book as long as Ian's writing it will never happen. This is the person responded that, basically that is untrue. This is what Ken had to say in response, and I quote, "That's just conjunction on your part. Ian could make a case of her inclusion." Okay, let me reread that, because apparently Ken didn't get everything in there, or type everything in there. This is what Ken said in response to somebody saying that it's untrue, that because Ian's writing the book, we won't see Sally. This is what he says, and I quote, "That's just conjunction on your part. Ian could make a case of her inclusion." Okay, let me reread that. Let me reread that again, because it feels like he misworded some stuff here. That being Ken Penders, and I quote, this is his response to the person that said it was untrue. And I quote, this is Ken Penders, and I quote, that's just conjunction on your part. Ian could make a case. Her inclusion would boost sales. On the other hand, he's on record saying the comics are just ads for the game. So why should he bother? So what he's saying basically is that in response to the person saying that it's untrue, Sally would never be in the IDW books, Ken's response is basically that Ian could make a case of her inclusion in the book because it would boost sales due to her popularity, but because Ian has gone on record in saying, and it is true, he has done this, that he's gone on record in saying that the comics are just ads for the game, why would Ian Flynn even bother with including her? If he's saying, hey, the comics are just ads for the game, which is a true statement. Why would Ian Flynn want to go out of his way and say, yeah, I'll include Sally, even though she's never really in the games. I'll include her. Now, I know I could hear people saying, correction, she was in the games as a Ricky squirrel, then as a female squirrel, and then as herself in her pink version in the bonus stage of Sonic Spinball. And then, oh, by the way, if you look at the bonus features of Sonic Mega Collection and Mega Collection Plus, there are the comic covers from Archie Sonic, and 3 of those covers that are added are the Princess Sally miniseries. So what are you talking about? so yeah, I mean, Ken does have a point. Ken does have a point that, Ian could make an argument of adding her in there because, you know, she is a Sega character. She's owned by Sega, but because he's so in the mindset, as Ken Penders put it, of the current comic being more based on the current game set or the current continuity of the games, that's not possible. Now, in response to that, in response to saying that, in response to, you know, Ken saying that, you know, Ian could make a case of her could make a case and that her inclusion would boost sales, and that on the other hand, he's gone on record, that being Ian Flynn, on saying that the comics are just ads for the game, so why should he, Ian Flynn, bother with bringing her in? Somebody else responded to that. That person would be the game apologist, Nick, the game apologist Nick. And here's what Nick had to say in response to that, and in case you guys want to know, that's exactly what it is right there. That's what I'm trying to read off, so I do apologize if I'm rambling on the words a little bit. But this is what the game apologist said, and I quote, in response to that tweet, that response tweet that Ken gave to Pandemus, if you will. This is what the game apologist had to say, and I quote, "Why are you laying the responsibility at his feet? Why do you keep picking fights with the guy? You say you're easy to work with, but you just keep trash-talking the guy just because he writes for the franchise." Now here was Ken's response to that, and for some odd reason when you copy and paste this onto Microsoft Word, it just balloons up big, if you know what I mean. This was Ken responded, and I quote, "Trash-talking? Really? Did I impugn the man's work? No. Did I call him names? Again, no. I can lay responsibility at his feet because I had the job for over 12 years, which is true. You don't stay in that position by being a snowflake." And what he's saying there is, look, and what he's saying there is basically, he's saying that even though Ian's been, you know, working for the both in Archie and in IDW for what's been going on now, about 15 years now? That's a long time. Got to give him credit there. A little longer than Ken. But what Ken's saying in comparison, even though he had 3 less years than Ian, basically, is what he's saying is that, you know, he didn't get to where he was on the book. He wasn't able to do the things he did on the book by being a pushover. And that's what he's kind of calling Ian Flynn. Now, Archie comic-wise, yes, Ian was on the book for as long as Ken was. They both have 12 years on the Archie book. But when you add in the inclusion of the IDW book, which has now been about 3 years, combined, yeah, Ian has more time. But what he's saying in comparison is that even in the combined short time of working on a Sonic comic book in total, you know, between both publishers, that he, compared to Ian, is someone that didn't allow himself to be pushed over. When he wanted something, he would ask, you know, he would go and fight for it. And if he couldn't get it, that was fine. He would try to compromise. He'd try to work around it, you know, to see if maybe they could do this. For example, you know, he wanted to do the Sally miniseries originally with Sally, you know, discovering her mom being roboticized and, you know, being, you know, the threat she has to fight in the book. But they didn't want that because they felt that was too dark. You know, he wanted to do a Thelma and Louise thing with Sally and Bunny as a compromise. They didn't want that. Instead, they compromised with him by saying, look, you can use Sally, you can use Robotnik, and that's it, but you got to come up with other ideas. And that's where he worked in the compromise of being like, okay, this would be a good place to, you know, fully introduce Jeffrey St. John, even though we saw him in the Sally short stories at the ends of issue 18 and 19, you know, if you will. Even though we saw him in that, which were preludes to the miniseries. He was able to use the miniseries to fully flesh out that character, as well as new characters like the Secret Freedom Fighters, you know, to utilize later on, which I think he did in future issues. And of course, we know about Jeffrey and how he became who he was later on. But yeah, he basically fought for that kind of stuff. And when he realized, okay, you know, when he basically got the no returned to him, you know, that's when the compromise was made. What he's saying here is that Ian Flynn, compared to him, even though combined-wise between the two publishers, Ian has more time on his plate, that even in his short time, and this is working on multiple Sonic-related books and other books, that basically, he fought for what he wanted. And at times he got what he wanted, and at times he didn't get what he wanted. And when he did get what he wanted, sometimes, it did come back to bite him, and he would have to kind of fix it a little bit, or have a compromise made. Like with Sally's death, original plan was to kill her off. But when Sega saw this, they said, no, we still have use for her. She's still very popular. Ken compromised they compromised the idea of, okay, we'll make it look like she dies, but then we'll reveal in issue 50 that she's in a coma, that she survived. So that's basically that's the sense I'm getting here, that Ken is basically comparing the fact that Ian is being pushed around. He's not standing up for what he wants. That if he wanted the freedom fighters in there, he wouldn't allow himself to be pushed around by Sega and all them, by saying, no, we don't want the freedom fighters, it's just going to be game rated only. Instead, Ian would be like, no, the freedom fighters were part of the comic originally, they should be in here, and I'm going to keep fighting for them, and I'm going to keep bringing up ideas and ideas and ideas and ideas. He would fight, but Ken's saying that's not what he's seeing. And basically in comparison, Ken's saying if I was in Ian's shoes, I would fight. Now, Nick, the game apologist, responded to that, to this tweet right here. Again, you could probably read it yourself right there. Nick here responded to the tweet here by saying this, and I quote, "The job has changed drastically, and a large part of that is because of you. Okay, the job has changed." Let me rephrase that, because I guess some part got cut out. The job has changed drastically, and a large part of that is because of you, and something else. Don't pretend otherwise. I'm in this thread at all because you have flat out lied about things he has said. I'm here because you are sending your fans after another writer for no reason. Now, I think this is the last one. Now, this was totally different. I don't know why this was separated. Okay, this actually has to continue off of what here. So this here, what I'm about to read, continues off of this right here. So this here I'm about to read as best I could, if you will, continues off of this. So, continuing on, and I quote, this is, okay, let's see where we are. Alright. So, Ken responded, like I said, so it's kind of mixed up here a little bit. So, because Nick came into this portion right here, but this is all direct between Ken Penders and Penders, if you will. Okay, so when this directly between them starts off, or leaves off, where Ken says to Penders that that's a conjunction on your part. Ian could make a case of her inclusion that would boost sales. On the other hand, he's gone on record saying the comics are just ads for the game, so why would he bother? Basically saying, why would he want to bring Sally in if he's pretty much gone on record and saying, it's the comic is an advertisement for the new current crop of games, or the continuity. Now, I read off Game Apologist's response. His pantomimizes a response to Ken on that. And I quote, as best as I can read this, he says, "You definitely know that he doesn't make the decision. Sega does. And they don't want characters from older, dead spin-offs in the comic. It's been proven a number of times. And yes, in the end, the comics are ads for the games and has always been. Same for the cartoons and movie." And then he continues on, and I quote, "Spreading such lies won't help with your public image, and it's only sabotaging your projects. You should stop the childish vendetta against Ian. You don't see him trashing you. You don't see him trashing you. You see his work. That helps." Now Ken responded to that by saying this. This is what Ken responded by saying, and I quote, "I'm speaking as a person who was, let me see if I can read that best. Hold on, let me get some light here. Okay, this is what Ken responded to those two responses to him by Padamias. This is what Ken said, and I quote, "I'm speaking as a person who has dealt with Sega over the years. I dealt with Sega of Japan executives, several Sega of America licensing managers, and even a Sega of America vice president. Even after I left Archie, Ian's either important to the process or he's a cog. Which is it?" So he's basically explaining, and this is true on his part, that he has dealt with various Sega representatives from Japan and here in America, including the vice president. And all he's pointing out here with Ian is either Ian is important to the current crop, the current direction of Sonic, or he's just another cog that could be easily replaced. Which is it? Now, Padamias responded, and this is the last page here, by saying, "When was the last time you dealt..." He basically responds with a question first. He says, "When was the last time you dealt with them?" That being a question towards Ken. "Ian has been dealing with them for 15 years. On multiple occasions. Several comics, cartoons, the official encyclopedia. He's more up to date and knows about current deals better." And that's about it. Right there. Now I'll provide a link as best as I can to the entire situation via Twitter. But long story short is it's just another back and forth situation here. All Ken is basically trying to say here is that, on his behalf, whether you agree with him or you don't, on his behalf, all Ken's trying to say is if Ian Flynn was not such a pushover from his point of view, that, what Ian Flynn has said by saying, "Hey, I want to bring the freedom fighters in, I want them as part of the story, I want them involved," then he would keep fighting for them. He would try to keep coming up with compromises and ideas of how to bring them in to where it wouldn't jeopardize the current status quo of the IDW comic. That's basically what he's saying. But because Ian Flynn, even though he comes out and says he wants him in there, has yet to push and drive for that to happen, again, it's hard to back him up. It's hard to support Ian as a writer, if you will. This is why a lot of fans like Crystal Maiden 77 and others have basically trashed the guy, because the guy has pretty much come out and said on numerous occasions he's going to do this, and yet we have yet to see any true result of that. And that's all Ken's saying. And when he says, "Hey, as long as Ian's writing the book, you're not going to see Sally Acorn in there in any shape, form, or fashion," he's got a point. Because again, give him credit where it's due. When he wanted to put something in the book, he worked his ass off. Excuse my language, God. He worked his ass off to try to make it happen, even if he had to compromise in making it happen in a way that wasn't his original plan. So that's all that he was getting across to these people. Yes, there are some people that don't trust him because of some of the legal action that he did behind the scenes years ago. And that's pretty much crippled his credibility. But the same could be said on his behalf and others that either defend Ken or they don't defend Ken, but they see where he's coming from. The same could be said for Ian Flynn. Ian Flynn has done several stuff throughout his run in the comic, both Archie and IDW, which has crushed his credibility and caused a lot of distrust with him and fans as well. And that was the noon whistle. I do apologize. But basically it's a back and forth situation. And the only question obviously I have to you is who's right? Is it Ken Penders or is it those that defend Ian Flynn? Is it Penders and his experience and trying to fight for what he wanted in the book, or is Ian right? Is Ian Flynn right in what he's doing? Are those that defend Ian Flynn right in what they say because of the history of mistrust they have with Ken? even though they know there's been some mistrust and and some lies given to them by Ian Flynn as well, basically who is right in the end? Well, I guess we just have to wait and see. But let me know what your thoughts are. Comment down below in the live chat. Not in the live chat. Well, yeah, comment in the live chat during the premiere. Comment down below in the comment section. And I will talk to you later. Like the video. I'll try to provide a link down below, or even in the description above, the annotation, if you will, and I'll provide again the video of that clip that I cut from my live stream that I did about a week or two ago. And again, just let me know what your thoughts are, and I am out.